What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the new episode of the Myles High Podcast. This is Myles Jr., your host. And as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. Hope everyone is doing good out there. I'm doing well. Good to be back on this new episode. I got a short and sweet episode for you guys today. I wanted to discuss this topic that has helped me throughout my personal development years. Right, this is something that I've had countless of conversations with my dad about when I was growing up. And there's this one particular learning experience that I had with him that always stood out to me, and that has followed me even now to this current age that I am. Right, I think about this all the time. I'm always asking myself, am I meeting and am I following the principles and the lessons that I was taught during this particular learning experience that I had? And I wanted to bring that to the pod to kind of share it with you guys, right? So the topic for this pod is going to be simply good versus right. Okay, good versus right. I want to start with a story that my dad had explained during a dinner session that we had with a group of individuals, right? And these were the type of sessions that I enjoyed because I had an opportunity to, at least in these sessions, I feel like my dad had the opportunity to be a bit more intimate and be a bit more detailed in the way that he would explain certain principles and certain life lessons, right? And I don't remember how we particularly got on the topic of good and right, but he used a story that an illustration that always stood out to me. He used me as an example. Maybe that's why it stood out to me, right? But he was talking to the group and he was trying to explain the difference between good and right. And he said, imagine my son and I being at home, and I'm about to leave to go out, and I tell my son, I want you to wash the dishes for me. And my son says, okay, and I leave, and my son does everything else but wash the dishes, right? He cleans the kitchen floor, he cleans the kitchen cabinets, he cleans his room, he makes his bed, washes his clothes, vacuums the floor, does all of these things that would be considered good things to do, right? But did not do the one thing that he had asked me to do. My dad had asked me to do. And, returning home, he comes to me, still sees the dishes in the wash, and, just confused, just asking me like, why didn't you wash the dishes? And I come to him and be like, Dad, I didn't wash the dishes, but there's a clean room that I have. There are some clean kitchen floors. The cabinets have been wiped down. I showed him all of these good things that I did, but, not doing the one thing that he asked me to do. And he used this illustration to show that, the task that I did, the chores that I did were good chores, right? Generally speaking, they would be deemed good chores that someone could do. So he told me that, I did everything that I was supposed to do except the one thing that he asked me to do, right? And, me thinking about that, sitting there around that table, that stood out to me, right? Because here we are as individuals, we do all of these good deeds, do all of these good things in life, and we think that because we're doing these good things, that we're good people, right? But I think the question that we need to ask ourselves always is, are we doing the right thing? Sure, we're doing good deeds. Sure, we're doing good things. But is it the right thing to do, right? This reminds me of this book that I read, or this excerpt that I read from this book by Dr. William Measham. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Dr. William Measham. And the name of the book is The Good and the Right. And I just want to read this excerpt for you. So it goes, the good has to do with achievement of goals. The right has to do with the laws and rules. The goodness paradigm recognizes that people have desires and aspirations and frames values in terms of what enables a being to achieve its ends. The rightness paradigm recognizes that people live in groups that require organization and regulation and frames values in terms of duty and conformance to rules. So simply put, what that's saying is, the main difference between good versus right is good has a lot to do with like our personal aspirations, right? The things that we deem good things to do, and right has a lot to do with like laws and rules and regulations that are put in place, whether in our nation, whether in our organizations or in our societies or in our communities. So in figuring out whether we're doing the good or the right thing, I think the first thing we need to line ourselves up with is laws, right? Rules and laws, because laws determine right from wrong, right? And I think we can all agree on that. And then good kind of falls along the lines of like, are we being good to our neighbors? Are we being good to our fellow community men and women? I think the battle between good versus right is something that we experience a lot in our political worlds, in our business worlds, and all these other industries that we inhabit, right? That we work through, these worlds that we live and operate in. There's always this battle between good versus right. And I think it's something that we have to be intentionally focused on, because it's a very thin line, right? It's a very thin line between good versus right. And I wanted to read a verse from the Life book. I am a strong believer that anything that we will ever have to deal with, and any answers that we may ever have in life, the answers are always in the Life book, right? And I want to take us to James 4, verse 17. Okay, James 4, verse 17. And it says, "So whoever knows the right thing to do and does not do it, for him it is sin." I'll read it again. "Whoever knows the right thing to do and does not do it, for him it is sin." And simply put, that's really telling us that the knowledge of the law, the knowledge of right versus wrong, holds us accountable to doing the right thing. I think if we don't know, right from wrong, and as children, like, we don't know what is right from wrong. So growing up, us doing wrong versus right, it's a real tug and pull when it comes to kids, because my friends and I, we have this conversation on like, when do you start punishing your kids for doing wrong? And I think the base of the argument is, well, does your kid know any better? Because if your kid doesn't know any better, then how could they decipher right from wrong? So, but knowing, whoever knows the right thing to do and does not do it, for him it is sin. And I think if we take that mindset into everything that we do, right, knowing that, man, this is choice A, option A is the right thing to do. Option B maybe not be the right thing, but could be possibly a good thing to do. But absolutely not the right thing to do. Which is better? Like, which is the choice we should choose? I think a lot of times, like, these businesses who, instead of offering their employees the deserved salaries that they should get, they would offer some lunch specials, some a lunch party, some little trinkets, some gifts that they would hand out to appease their employees, right? To make their employees feel good about themselves, right? Because they want to do this good thing instead of maybe doing the right thing, right? I think of this story that went viral a couple of months ago about this gentleman that had been working for Burger King for quite a number of years, right? I think it was like some crazy years, something like 20 years or something like that. And I think on his 20th, or could have been 25th year, his 25th year, 20th year anniversary, whatever it was a really long time. And what Burger King did for him was they gave him a bag, and it had like, I think it had like some coupons to get some Burger King meals. It had some other little trinkets in it that it absolutely made no sense for a 20-year employee of an organization to get. And that particular video went viral because everyone recognized that, man, you guys are doing a good thing. Yeah, recognizing that this person had a long tenure in your business. But come on, man, like, you guys giving this 20-year employee some burger coupons, a pen, whatever else it was that he got, right? And everyone knew that, man, the right thing to do was to compensate that man, give him a raise, give him a promotion, something that equals the energy and time that he has given to this organization. And what came out of that was the public then turned around and did the right thing. The public decided, man, we want to start a GoFundMe for this gentleman. And I think they raised, somewhat of like maybe $20,000-$30,000 that was given to him. And I think that just showed me, man, like these organizations know exactly what they're doing, right? They don't want to do what we all know is the right thing to do. They just want to do these good deeds to appease their employees, to appease themselves, to appease their subconscious, to make them feel good about, yes, this employee has been working with us for 20 years, 30 years, whatever the length of time was. But man, if we can get away with doing this good thing, I want to do this. I prefer to do this. And I don't think that's the way we should live. And I think even in our political world, right, especially in the Bahamas, like I know every election season, like you see roads getting paved, you see grocery bags being handed out, you see even money like being given out to persons in different communities. And all of it is to not really do the right thing, right? Or what we would consider the right thing to do, which is like be good political individuals and be good community representatives. But instead they try to appease these individuals for their votes during the current election season. And I always say, man, if you guys do the right thing or do what you're supposed to do what you were elected to do for those 4 or 5 years that you were in office, you wouldn't have to give out these things during election season, right? Because the people would have seen the impact that you've had in the community and in the country, and would want you to serve them. So I think those individuals who have to go and do these bribery, essentially is what it is, right? Those individuals who haven't been doing anything, right, have been lazy, have been maybe enjoying the spoils of their position, as opposed to impacting and influencing the communities that they were elected to serve, and have to go above and beyond then now to be reelected, because I think they know that the people know you haven't done anything for me, so what are you going to do for me now? And I think that's what we're presented with. So if we could focus on doing what is right, and I think it's really all relative. There's a very thin line. But I think we all know the right thing to do. I think a good example of it is with my wife and I. Now, this is a real simplistic example, right? But I think it speaks wonders, because these are the kind of good and right things that we possibly deal with on an ongoing basis, right? So I had just come from the gym one morning. Usually when I come from the gym, I have me a protein shake, and then I go up and take a shower, and I come down and make some breakfast, and I start the rest of my day. This particular day, I walked in from the gym, was mixing my protein shake. My wife was like, hey, want to make breakfast for you? She wants to do a good deed for me. And I was like, all right, sure. I'm not going to turn down someone making breakfast for me. So she asked me what I want. I was like, okay, I'm on a little gym regimen right now. So all I want is some egg whites and a slice of toast. So I specifically told her I wanted some egg whites and some toast, right? And I proceeded to go upstairs, take my shower, and come back downstairs. Now, coming back downstairs, obviously I expected to have some egg whites and toast prepared and ready for me to enjoy, right? But to my surprise, my wife had made me a Bahamian delicacy. She made me tuna fish and grits. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I came down, saw the tuna fish and grits, looked at my wife, kind of bewildered. And I was like, what's this? She's like, oh, I made you some tuna fish and grits. And I was like, but didn't we agree that you would make egg whites and a slice of toast? And she was like, yeah, but this is what I wanted to make. And I just looked at her with a puzzled look, and I was like, really? Like, what? And it kind of caused like a little rift that morning, right? So we had a little back and forth. And she couldn't understand why I was upset. And because she felt like she did this good deed. Like I went up what she felt was
it was a great deed.
What she felt was above and beyond for making me breakfast. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But I, gave you a specific request. Like, this is what I wanted. This is what I would have expected you to do. And I didn't ask you to make breakfast for me. You offered to make breakfast for me. And, that's the kind of way I looked at it. But she couldn't understand why I wasn't appreciative. Even though she didn't make what I wanted, she made breakfast for me nonetheless. And she felt like she slaved over this plate of food that she made. And I was not appreciative. And, it took us having a couple of hours of conversation for her to realize, like, okay, like I get it now. A certain request or instructions were given. I didn't follow those instructions. I did what I wanted to do, what I felt you would have liked, what I felt was something that I wanted to do for you to like. But it wasn't the right thing to do because it wasn't according to the instructions that were given. And I think we kind of got past that, and I think she learned a really good lesson, right?
Yeah, it was a good lesson.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
So no more tuna, fish, and grits if I don't ask for it.
You know what? Just ungrateful.
Nah, so that was a real simple example, but that's the kind of things we go through on a day-to-day basis, right? There's these laws, these regulations, these instructions that we're given, and we kind of avoid, doing those specific instructions, and we instead do things that we think are good or just as good as the instructions. And essentially, that's the main and major difference between good versus right, and that's what we, kind of deal with on an ongoing basis. This reminds me of a teaching that I saw of my dad just the other day. And he made a statement that really stood out to me, and it reminded me of this particular topic, right? He said, don't just make decisions, study consequences. And that was so profound to me, right? Because sometimes we make these snap decisions and don't really think of the consequences of these decisions, right? And I think if we take our time to study the consequences and not just look at the decisions that we have to make, I think we'll all be in a better place, in a better position at the end of the day. And when it comes to good versus right, like if we weigh, like, is this something that I want to do, or is this something that I am supposed to do, that I was instructed to do, or that I'm abiding by, or in right standing with some particular law or instructions? These are the detailed differences between good versus right. And I think if we are intentional about focusing on doing the right thing, not just a good thing, I think we'll all be in a better place. All right, so that brings us to the portion of the episode where I leave with you a milestone. And this week, milestone is very simple. Something that I've, learned as a teenager growing up, and something that has stuck with me and that I remind myself of on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And the milestone today is simply, when in doubt, do what is right. When in doubt, do what is right. So that means whatever dilemma you're in, whatever options you have, ensure that you're doing the right thing. And I think about this constantly in my personal life, my professional life, and the businesses that I have to make decisions in, because sometimes we're faced with these decisions that may not necessarily benefit the business, but could benefit us personally, right? We are presented with these options where we could, pad our pockets, so to speak. And it's really not the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do because, I'm doing a good thing for me, doing a good deed for myself, but it's selfish. And, whenever we're in doubt, if we're not sure what decision to make, always choose the right decision. All right. And just wanted to leave that with you guys today. All right. So that brings us to the end of this episode. This one was short and sweet, but still a topic that I think is impactful and filled with a lot of principles that we can apply to our personal and our professional lives. All right. So I hope you enjoyed. Let's have a conversation in the comments. If you want, shoot me a message. I'd love to hear your feedback on this one, because I feel like this one really hits close to home and is that much special. And I think if you could learn from this, what I have been able to learn from it, I'd just be curious to know your thoughts and opinions on it. All right. So as you know, with this podcast, my vision and goal is to always entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right, until next time, you guys be blessed.